officers do. They react.
Sure.
Right? So, like, look at a situation that happened over in Spokane quite a few years ago.
Yep.
When they made entry and they had to do their job. And the next day they had lawsuits because of the hearing loss that the children and other people were exposed to.
Imagine that.
So you save their life, but then they're going to turn around and sue you. So that agency now runs full suppressed.
Okay, so here we are, back for another episode of Over the Barrel. It's a Friday. I got the Friday shirt on today. Life's going to be good. I'm GW. I'm here at Rainier Arms Firearms Academy, and I got my friend David here from JK Armament, and we're going to talk to him about his product. We're going to talk about him, and then any other subject that spawns out of this conversation. So sit back and relax, enjoy the conversation. So right off the bat, right? Are you a White Claw guy, or are you Pabst Blue Ribbon? What team are you on?
I would probably go Pabst Blue Ribbon.
PBR. Okay, very cool. Yeah, I like that. I like the tangerine White Claw. It's pretty good, right? I drink it with a straw so that my lipstick don't get on the can.
And you wonder why people make fun of you.
Among other things, yeah. I just give them all kinds of things to do.
There we go.
So welcome to the show, David.
Thank you.
All right, we're happy to have you here.
It's nice to be here.
We love to have you. And Kaya's taking a little nap, but she's excited about you being here too. I know she seems very excited.
There we go.
But so tell me who you are. How'd you get to where you're at today?
Well,
I know your mom had you at some point, right? But we don't have to go through that.
Perfect. Yeah. So I mean, really, it started with where I grew up. I grew up in Southwest Iowa. My father was in the military.
Oh, wow.
Had a long career there. And then when he got out, he was actually a sheriff's deputy. So I was always surrounded by firearms and also kind of the law enforcement training side.
Right on.
So growing up in that environment, having access to firearms was always kind of a memorable thing. And actually, there's an Uzi on the wall over there.
Yeah.
And that was actually the first suppressed firearm that I ever shot.
No kidding.
Was a suppressed, full-size Uzi at that point. So
such a great gun.
That started it, and fast forward, here I am.
Not a great gun, but a great gun to shoot, right?
As a kid, it left a mark and really a memory that I always would cherish, and I think that really led into my career and what I do now, and having that experience and the people I get to meet and share that with.
The people that grew up before me, I'm old, right? 58. So the people who grew up before me remember the unique wars in Israel, and the Uzi was an iconic symbol of those times. I remember, right, two things. I remember seeing the hostage rescue in the UK, where the SAS guys had MP5s, and I remember I was actually sitting in front of the television when Reagan got shot at that hotel. And the iconic symbol of that guy standing over top of the president with an Uzi at the ready was something you'll never forget. And every time I see one, I think of that day. So that weapon is iconic. And I love the fact that you shot one that was suppressed. I think we have a suppressed one here somewhere. If it doesn't, oh yeah, it's that one. Shit. Cool. Right on. So what else? So you shot an Uzi, fell in love with guns, right?
Well, I mean, that's how I grew up, right? And ultimately moved out west, went to high school, joined the military. Oh. Had a short stay in the military.
Where were you in? What branch were you in?
I was in the Army.
Yeah, were you?
Yeah.
I'm a soldier too.
Yeah.
Retired guy.
Very nice. So had a short time there. When I got out, had multiple shoulder surgeries. And try to figure some things out, right? I tried college, I did a few other things, and ultimately started working in social work and realized that type A personality and that hard charger mindset didn't always work while working with mental illness and trying to work around those barriers. So ultimately, I ended up working for Nosler, and that was the very beginning of my firearms career.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What else?
I mean, at that point, just kind of worked my way through the ranks and eventually was in sales and worked in law enforcement and government sales for quite a few years and started on more of like a third-party supply side. And that really kind of broadened what I was aware of what ultimately capabilities were. So starting with just like uniforms and just frontline gear. Then I went into specialized equipment. So body armor, less lethals, firearms, night vision, things of that nature.
Very cool.
And then as time went on, I was able to earn some promotions and worked my way up through that company. Then I made the decision I was going to be working for some manufacturers. So I made a little bit of a pivot at that point. So I was still in the firearms industry, but I worked for some law enforcement divisions and so holster companies and a few other things. And then ultimately, I had an opportunity to work for a suppressor company. And throughout the years, I'd always been around suppressors, obviously, from when I grew up, and then working in law enforcement sales, seeing them, you know, going to a lot of training classes, things of that nature. And that has always been a goal of mine, primarily because I love the science behind it, and I love seeing people learn how to shoot for the first time and just experience firearms on a different level. So that's why I always wanted to get into it.
Cool.
And that's ultimately how I ended up at JK.
So you're a family man?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got
family.
You got a family?
Yeah.
Yeah. We just talked a little bit about your camping experience upcoming.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's got like an interesting way of delivering his payloads to the target.
Absolutely.
Okay. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, so I live in Idaho, so we don't just have flat ground out there.
Sure.
So having a young family, we have lots of support equipment, right? And so we actually have the ability to have multiple llamas that we're able to put all of our gear on, so that way the packs aren't super heavy when we hike in. Our hike ultimately is going to start at about 4,000 feet. We'll go up to about 10, a little bit over, to a high mountain lake, and we'll set up tent, and it'll be nice. You know, I always joke around and call it Gucci camping.
Yeah.
Because we get to take things that we don't normally get to on a backpacking trip.
I don't know how Gucci that is. You walked in and you walk out.
Yeah.
How old are your children?
She's 5 now.
So one child at 5, and she's making that movement.
Absolutely.
Is she in Dad's backpack or?
No, she walks.
I'll be dang. Holy smokes, she's hard.
Start them early, right?
Yeah, man. She's not afraid of doing it.
No, I mean, we were out shed hunting last weekend.
Nice.
In some pretty steep country. And I mean, I looked over at her. I mean, she knows how to navigate it, but I look over at her and she's just got pure joy on her face. You know, so I mean, we take our breaks, we pay attention to what her needs are, but ultimately I'm not there to baby her. I'm there to teach her how to survive and how to be independent in that environment. And there's times I ask her if she needs a break, and she's like a third of the way up the hill, and she's like, "No, I'm good, Daddy." And she just digs in, leans in. And
is it because you needed a break and you're just hoping she would give you a break?
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
So that's what our lifestyle was like before we had a little one. And we just always made a commitment to always stay true to that. And so we snow camped with her when she was 6 months old. And so during the wintertime, we'll cross-country ski in and we'll snow camp. And then there's all throughout the year.
You take your llamas take your stuff?
So I do not have llamas personally. I rent llamas.
Oh, you rent
them. But that being said, we have access to a lot of different things.
I'll be dang.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You rent llamas.
You rent them. Yeah.
Well, that way you don't have to, put up with them later, right?
Correct.
You say you're gonna have this back.
No, that's the thing about living in Idaho. There's a lot of people that offer really cool services. I know people that even rent pygmy goats, even so.
Not the ones that faint.
No.
I want a couple of those.
The ones that'll carry 30 pounds, so you don't have to.
I dig
right?
it. Wow, pack animals.
That's it.
So have you seen they've got these robotic dogs now, right? Have you seen those things? The law enforcement community?
The last time I saw them, they had a machine gun mounted on them.
Yeah.
And that was at
BORTAC?
NTOA.
NTOA, yeah. I saw the one that had the machine gun on it. It had Borstar, BORTAC.
Yeah. It makes you think twice.
Yeah. Well, the writing was on the wall for that. They used a robot to blow a dude up in Dallas. Remember that?
That's exactly it.
Brilliant idea.
Yeah.
I mean, Why risk an officer when you can just put a new arm on the robot?
And he had no idea.
No.
He just thought he was getting lunch.
Smile for the camera. That's like, speaking of Israelis before, I know we're kind of like spiraling out of control, but that's what we do here. Yeah. They used to have this gun or this mechanism you'd put a Glock in, and you could shoot around a corner.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Corner shots, what it was called. And they, one of the things is, this is a true story that they reenacted for the commercial, is they stuck a stuffed animal cat on the end of this thing, and they were using it for reconnaissance, right? And then somebody was looking at it a little too hard, and they zapped him through the cat. Well,
precursor of Suppressor.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty interesting, and I was able to be friends with the people that sold those into them to our friends in the Middle East. I did some work with them when I was at Tactical Tailor. Nice. So that's you.
That's me.
Okay. Well, there's more to it than that, but you're being a little cagey with us. He's highly capable, I can tell you. I just met him today, and like a lot of these companies that we have here, I have some prior knowledge of the person that's coming, and I had none of that today. And I was a little busy today, and I didn't get a chance to spend some time with you. But the time I did spend with you, I understand that you're of great character, and your words, your bonds. So that's really important. And we have nothing but great things and great experiences with JK Armament folks. And so now I need you to tell me the JK Armament story.
Yeah, well, I mean, it all started with Jake, and I mean, Jake has been in the firearms industry for quite a few years. He's been in the military for quite a few years as well. He's just retiring. He spent over 20 plus years in, I believe. With that being said, he's always been involved with, he was involved with Gemtech. He was involved with Nemo. Multiple other Maximum Defense, where he was focused on kind of like the R&D side. But before that, I mean, if you're gonna know about JK, you need to know about kind of the mindset that goes into some of the things that we do. And that's, I mean, Jake is a diesel mechanic by trade, first and foremost. He grew up on a farm.
Oh, okay.
So the tools that we use with our equipment and the way that we maintain our gear is very focused on tools that everyone will have around them, and it's easily to get a hold of, and we're focused on not just meeting like a high-end type price point of a demographic, but we're focused on meeting a lot of different types of people and new demographics into suppressors. And it really starts with that.
And here we are, right? We're in a climate right now where it's really not necessarily more affordable, but it's a lot quicker.
Correct.
A lot of people with limited means wouldn't submit the paperwork because it took so long.
Absolutely.
But now they can get it back in days or even a week.
Sometimes. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing that what the government can do when they can get motivated, huh?
That's it.
It's all about leadership there.
That's it.
Okay.
But so I mean, with that, I mean, ultimately, we were in the Form 1 side of the house for quite a while. And then with just the political changes and things of that nature, we switched over to the Form 4 side. With that, we have a really good in-house team. So we're machinists first, is what I always tell people. Because if you go into our shop, we have some really impressive experience of people that are working all the variations of machines, but people with experience from within our industry as well.
Yeah, that's great.
That's really helped us.
So they know where the bodies are buried and where all the skulls are, so they don't step over those things again. That's really cool. We had an engineer that worked with us at Tactical Tailor. It was our mold guy. Made our molds, and he was an elderly fellow when we met him. But he was like, if you ever carried a Spyderco knife, the liner lock is invented by that guy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, pretty cool. But he had so much knowledge in this that we just couldn't get it all out, right? And then it was interesting to have conversations with him around the break area.
Absolutely.
Really cool.
Yeah.
What else do I need to know about JK?
I mean, I think it's really important that, you know about where we came from, but also kind of where we're going, kind of the direction of like our focus points, right? And so then one of the number one goals that we're focusing on is providing suppressors for the average consumer, right? So we're not just going to target, contracts. We're trying to really get suppressors in the hands of responsible armed citizens. And,
Yep.
and that's why we have different types of categories of our suppressors, because we don't want to just go after one type of demographic. We're trying to show that if you're a responsible armed citizen, then there is one or more suppressors that'll fit your needs. And so that is really important to us.
Fantastic. Fantastic. We've had great success moving your product through the store and through the website. So we're real happy with the product. You have one of the few, I think you're one of 2 manufacturers that make a reliable 12 gauge suppressor.
Yeah.
Which is pretty interesting.
Yep.
All in itself, right? And that's a scalable product too, isn't it?
Absolutely. So all of our suppressors are going to be mission configurable.
Okay.
Right. And the shotgun suppressor that you were talking about is one of 2 flagship products that we offer. So the shotgun suppressor, when we were looking at that, we're noticing and receiving a lot of feedback from hunters who weren't granted access into certain types of hunting situations because of noise pollution.
Sure.
We also kind of looked at it from the standpoint of, one of the number one, probably the number one firearm in households across America is going to be a shotgun.
Yep.
Right? And so being able
That's
to...
what Joe says anyway.
Yeah. is going to be providing a solution for them with modern solutions, I would say. And what I mean by that is previous offerings had, it's over 10 years old, but it has limitations that we noticed. And we were just wanting to improve upon certain things, especially from feedback that we were receiving from the hunting community. So we have multiple shotgun suppressors that are mission configurable in size, but more importantly, our attachment device, so our CRMD, is what replaces the choke in the shotgun.
Yep.
And that's purely an attachment device. It's not a choke.
Right.
So then our shotguns, you can see in this cutaway here with our CRMD there.
Right here.
And then, and then you can see the baffles, how it doesn't look like a traditional, it doesn't look like a shotgun suppressor like we've seen before, I should say.
Okay.
And so with that, we have a trumpet design that allows us to shoot slugs, buck, and bird shot. And what it does is it keeps that cup closed so that it can pass through the suppressor without the rounds actually damaging the suppressor.
Yeah, you don't get any baffle strikes.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, and so with that being said, if you follow it to the top on that end cap, that's our choke.
Happy day.
And so we offer the full line of chokes. The only one that we're missing right now is going to be a turkey choke. But we have hunting suppressors for shotguns.
There's a joke in there somewhere.
Yeah, right. Sure. Always is, it feels like, right? Leave it to me to walk right into it.
I love it.
But so we have our hunting suppressors, which is our long configuration. We have our short configuration of that option. And then we have our short-barreled shotgun system, which is going to be specifically designed for semi-automatic shotguns, short-barreled shotguns. And ultimately, that really helps bridge the gap from both of those communities, but also the needs. So running different types of loads through a shotgun sometimes leads us to a point where we need to tune shotguns, and we don't always have the ability to do that.
Yep.
So being able to...
Especially in the field or whatever.
That's exactly it. So being able to work with the modular system or the mission configurable options there, you can really adjust the suppressor to meet the needs of your shotgun, and ultimately helping you be effective in the field. But that also kind of meets and helps shooters that maybe have never been able to handle a 12 gauge shotgun before because of recoil. That high flow baffle system really helps mitigate recoil, and it helps with reliability on semi-automatic and full auto shotgun.
I love it.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's the most important thing, I think. Well, would be for me is that if I have a semi-auto gun and I put a suppressor on it, do I have to tune it up so much? But it seems like you guys have figured that out for us.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah.
So what else do we need to know about your technology? What sets JK apart from other suppressor manufacturers?
Yeah. Well, I would say first and foremost, we're known for utilizing lightweight materials.
Okay.
Right? I mean, if we look at suppressor technology and how it's adapted and improved over the years, I remember when I first started learning about suppressors, you would only use aluminum for rimfire suppressors. And I mean, it's not really common for people to use aluminum for rifle suppressors even, right? Because, well, I mean, the idea is that it's not as durable, that it can't handle pressures, those types of things.
If something goes wrong inside the can, it's more apt to lose the whatever's going on inside of it.
What I would say is this, though. If the most common material used up until this time has been stainless steel in suppressors, right? What do they make? What do they make engines out of currently?
It's all aluminum blocks.
It's all aluminum, right? Why do they use aluminum?
Lighter weight.
Lighter weight, heat, right?
Dissipates heat better.
Absolutely. So remember the background.
Beer cans are made out of aluminum?
Yeah.
White Claw cans?
I don't know anything about that. Sorry. Yeah.
You didn't slip in. I like it.
Yeah. But just remember the background of Jake, you know, who designed these. He's a diesel mechanic, right?
Sure.
So I mean, it's one of those things that he's learned those lessons about engines and the pros of utilizing that type of material and the manufacturing ability with it. So now we're trying to do something different in the suppressor world by offering options out of a lighter weight material, which is also going to equate to higher manufacturing productivity in that set, but then also lowers the cost as well, while having the benefits of mitigating heat, a few other things.
I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you're manufacturing on titanium and other things, are trying to get that same thing to occur.
Yeah.
It really costs more to do that.
Well, I mean, just
keeps the Russians in business.
Yeah. I mean, one baffle that is made out of titanium. It takes 30 minutes for one baffle.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
So if you have a long suppressor that's 100% made out of titanium, it's going to take you a while just to produce one suppressor.
Yeah, and then all that costs money, all that machine time.
Yeah.
And also
Not to mention, titanium is flammable. So if you are machining titanium, you can't just leave it and walk away and go work on another task. You have to have somebody watching it at all times.
I didn't realize that.
Because it's flammable, which means your entire setup can catch on fire.
And then it's over.
So having safety precautions set in place, you know, but then also having someone manually there running it and observing it, making adjustments as need be.
That's cool.
That's a skill. And to me, that's something that I really appreciate in having this style of suppressor.
Absolutely. Yeah. Why not, man? So you're getting a trifecta built in. You know, normally, a consumer going to have 2 of 3 things. They can have a good product that gets to the market faster and has a great price. Those are the 3 things that you need, right? Yeah. Most people say pick 2.
Correct. Yeah, makes sense.
But it seems like you guys are getting to the third leg pretty easily.
Absolutely.
I like that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So what else makes JK different besides having one of the best 12 gauge offerings, and then you guys have the lighter weight offerings out there, and you've scaled your almost like a good, better, best type thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. But one other flagship item that absolutely cannot be looked over is our special purpose suppressors. So right here on the end is going to be our special purpose CCX 9mm suppressor. So that is designed for concealed carry. So the idea is, I mean, in its full stack configuration, you can run it wet or dry. I always refer to that as like the bedside gun configuration, right? Just because it's maximizing capabilities. Yeah. But it's so light because we utilize aluminum that it does not require a booster.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right?
So that's one less thing you got to buy.
Absolutely. So I mean, on average, you can buy a booster housing with the spring and with the piston setup. You're spending another $150 to $200, right? Plus, we have to look at what that does to the actual firearm and how the firearm reacts to having that extra weight on the end of the barrel. Yep. Right? So with this being said...
And fatness, do you occlude your sights, all that stuff.
Absolutely. So with that being said, you have an option now that's smaller profile. You can utilize it as its full-size configuration, so about that big right there, and then you can drop it down in that mission configurable setting. So I know a lot of people that will walk up to me at shows or or they'll send me an email where they're telling me about how they are now taking a Glock 43X, or they're taking a SIG, 365, and they're taking the CCX 9mm, and they're utilizing that as another tool in regards to their daily carry, because they're worried about that OODA loop when they potentially have to engage. They need to be able to receive information. They need to be able to communicate clearly, whether that's to the threat or whether that's to their loved ones or people around them.
Right.
And the number one priority is being able to process all of that information at the same time.
Wow.
Because they're being held to an extremely high standard. And so this tool is only going to be an asset for that person, whether it's at home or whether it's during their daily carry.
I'll be dang. Yeah. Well, I know that in my former life, people I ran into that were rolling suppressed weapons, I was like, "Are you really need those in this environment?" And they're like, "Well, we use it for identification." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I says, "When my guys are shooting in a building, the loud noises are coming from bad guys."
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
That was really interesting how they utilized the suppressors. I think that they wanted to look cool and had a suppressor on the end of the gun too. So the chicks dig it factor was way high. I was just, as you were explaining that 9mm can, I'm just thinking about James Bond screwing a suppressor on the end of that PPK. So he wouldn't have had to do that with this. He could have just left it on, stuck it in his shoulder holster, in his pants, or wherever he carried the thing.
So it's funny that you say that, because at SHOT Show this year we actually had a custom PPK, Jamerton 380, right? That we actually had a CCX attached to. But then we also had a red dot cut and a red dot on top. And
so you just modernized that whole piece, right?
It was beautiful. And what even made it better was that that was the only nickel plated one created.
I'll be damned.
And there was a second one created, but it was blued. So it was really cool just to have that.
And is that in the owner's? That's in the owner's safe at this point.
That is. I don't know the exact location. I cannot
I don't
disclose that.
I don't want to dox them with that.
That's right.
Pretty funny. But how cool is that? I think you sold me one of those actually.
Huh?
I've never even considered having a suppressor on a pistol from a home defense gun.
Yeah.
But that makes total sense to me, right? The dogs don't get upset when I'm blasting the bad guy in the foyer.
Yeah. So, I mean, in my house, I have suppressors primarily because I have to work my way to my daughter's bedroom.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I'm shooting a 5.56 gun that's not suppressed, or I'm shooting something else, I'm not only going to be limiting my ability to communicate effectively, because now I hurt my daughter's hearing.
And yours.
And mine. And my spouse, right? But with that being said, I'm able to process that information, and I'm able to hopefully ultimately be able to be effective with that and not hurt my family.
Yeah, and bad guys are I don't want to speak for them, but for the most part, they're counting on you becoming a victim almost at will. Yeah. Like you capitulate to be a victim. Yeah. And as soon as we fight back, it tends to be a different story.
Tends to be.
So that's the great news story about what we do. Absolutely. Our mission statement here is to make our environment safer through mindset, training, and equipment. And you guys are a big part of the equipment piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
And mindset, because if you're not tripped out by the sound of gunfire, you can train harder. You can train better, right? Yeah. It amazes me that the rest of the world, the rest of the civilized world, don't regulate suppressors the way we do, right? Yeah. It's a requirement in some countries to hunt with them.
Correct.
Because of hearing conservation.
Absolutely.
And my hearing would have been a whole much better had I used those as a child and as in my military career. That's it. Yeah. So everyone needs a suppressor on their gun as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. It's just, like I had one person tell me, he goes, everyone else is just savages. Like it is a little more civilized.
That's it.
So I could see our newest James Bonds out there screwing on the suppressor, scaling it to their needs, and then leaving it alone.
Well, I mean, just think of it from a training aspect, right? I mean, my daughter, she's 5.
Yep.
She just shot a rifle for the first time. So I put a 22 suppressor on the end of just a little bolt action 22, obviously.
Yeah, a little chipmunk.
And I tell you what, all she heard was the bullet hitting the dirt.
I love it.
I mean, it wasn't scary for her. I mean, it was a wonderful first exposure experience for her. And now, I mean, it really created just a pathway of her being curious and wanting to be educated. And there's been a lot more conversations about it now, and about firearms and why we have firearms and what the purpose of them are. And ultimately, she wants to go and shoot more.
I love it.
And that's all I can ask for, right?
Yeah, you know, you get to shoot, you get to share your passion with your little one. Man, that's always great. I remember doing that with my sons.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were shooting turkey vultures at a dump one time in El Paso. We had a great time. We didn't have any suppressors though. I was a broke ass E4, so in those days.
That's how it goes.
How it goes, for sure.
Yeah.
Now I can afford those things, and I only own one. So I think that's going to be the second one.
There we go.
Yeah, I really like that. I think, and I've got a macro that's being updated by Danger Close.
Oh, very nice.
So when it comes in here, we're going to make sure we can thread something on into it.
That's exactly it.
That'd be cool, man.
Yeah.
So let's. So that talks about anything else you want to add about the way the things that you guys do and what makes you unique.
I would say this: we're one of the only companies still that are machining.
Mm-hmm. Instead
of using 3D printing. There's been a huge increase in manufacturers going that way, and being a suppressor enthusiast myself, I love the idea that we're developing new technology.
Sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. Do I see limitations? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I can tell you as a company, JK is firm on the ground of we're going to keep machining. Yep. Right? Because we have a lot of different priorities, and one of those being being able to maintain, being able to potentially warranty repair if needed.
Absolutely.
Which we have a strict policy that if anything happens with our suppressors, we return it to factory, and then it's back to you in 48 hours.
Wow.
That's really important to us, and so that's our customer service aspect there is really important as well. And but then being able to help people find suppressors that are going to meet their needs, and it doesn't always have to check a box, right? I mean, we can think outside of the box and try to keep pushing forward and being innovative.
Yeah, looking forward, never back, right?
Absolutely.
That keeps the manufacturers very, very relevant. Mm-hmm. I dig it.
One of the things that if you speak to people that have shot our suppressors after shooting other people's suppressors, a common theme is that the tone of our suppressors, much deeper. And that has to do with a few different things. It has to do with the geometry that we're using. Yep. It has to, ultimately the types of volume and how we're constructing those suppressors as well. But it allows us to be consistent every single time with our manufacturing practices. Right. And that is a priority. So.
Very neat. Mm-hmm. Wow. So let's talk about what do you carry? What's your carry gun when you're in Idaho?
At this time, I'm currently carrying an H&K P30.
No kidding. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that gun? Because that's kind of a unique off the path selection.
So I've been in the firearms industry for quite a few years now.
Sure.
I've carried a lot of different firearms, right? I have friends from multiple different companies, and I've been able to shoot and been able to carry a lot of different types of guns, and I finally realized that I wanted my daily carry firearm to make me happy, right? And so every time that I pick that up and put it in my waistband every single morning, and I want to sit there and just kind of look at it and think, not just does it make me happy, but why does it make me happy?
Sure.
It's a double action, single action pistol, right? Yep. That is a type of pistol that I grew up with my father teaching me how to shoot on. Yeah. So I shoot growing up I shot a lot of double action, single action pistols. Yep. And with just kind of the progression of my gun ownership, I've never had anything fancy or anything just kind of out of the norm, and for this one I decided just to go a little above and beyond and make something that makes me happy. So
their tagline's what? No compromise, right? HK's tagline?
I believe so.
Yeah, so I'm a big HK fan myself. I've got one of the guns I had to buy myself once I had the means to do it. Yeah. Was a P7. Had to buy that squeeze cocking gun, right? Because I'm left-handed. right?
Okay.
So I thought it lended itself to me
Yeah.
for that. And then I found out it only held 8 rounds.
Absolutely.
I was like, I'll be a reloading individual if I needed it. Funny story is I almost dropped it on the I-5 when I was on my motorcycle. I had a holster that wasn't very good.
Yeah.
They fixed it for me though.
Good.
The company that was in the Pacific Northwest at the time heard about my problem and said, I want to fix that for you.
Good.
And so that was my first ownership of an HK product, which is great. It's iconic.
Yeah.
I'll never get rid of it.
No.
But my new love for their brand is the VP9.
Isn't that nice?
So I have a VP9, and it's I sent it off to a friend of mine, Joe Barnesfather, which is another over-the-barrel guy that was sitting in that same chair with you. We sat around the chair kind of because he's a monster, but he took that gun and put some texture rising on the grip. He worked on the trigger a little bit, and that gun is probably, if it all goes to shit, right, I'm going to pick 2 guns out of my gun safe.
Yeah.
My Ruck, my Rainier Arms carbine, and then that VP9 with an optic and a light.
That's it.
As I got older, I was always against that optic. I was like, I don't need an optic. I'm a shooting individual, and I was a pretty good shot.
Yeah.
But as I got older, guys like the Vanilla Gorilla behind the camera over there would outshoot me because his eyes are better.
That's a big
I
deal.
had to figure that out. Well, he's got a lot of natural talent, and he practices a lot.
And red dots, I mean, that people like, just to have attachments because it's a trend, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But I have been through enough red dot, courses. Mm-hmm. The science has been established and is continuing to be developed as time goes on, and that information in the proof in the data is there.
Well, in the defense of those old timers, right? When they first hit the market and people started sticking them on guns,
Yeah.
it wasn't a reliable mounting system.
Correct. Yeah.
Those didn't hold zero for shit. Like they would lose zero riding down the road in your gun bag.
Yeah.
And I saw that with my own eyes. And a lot of guys out there, you got Ken Hackathorn and some of the other guys out there who were very vocal against red dots. And they saw that happen and was like, nope, no more. They focus on my front sight and put the round on the target. But I think that when I saw my gun guru, which will remain nameless, brandish that VP9 with a Steiner on top of it, I was like, oh, my world just changed, right? My whole world just changed. Sort of like I always thought Glock was a plastic stupid pistol. I always thought it was a dumb gun, right? That made by a guy from that built tractors or farm equipment. But I was wrong. I had a guy named Matt Chin. It reintroduced me to the pistol. He's like one of the big dudes at Glock. I love me some Matt Chin, man. Matt Chin, if you're watching this. So I saw my brothers and sisters in the military. When I say sisters, no one knew they were women in that unit at the time. They said, we want the Glock 19. Well, first they went with a 40, and I was thinking, that's a weird combo meal. And then they quickly figured out that the 40 was killing the guns. So they went to once the ballistics caught up, they transitioned over to that Glock 19. And that was the writing on the wall for me that one of those in my waistband wouldn't be a bad deal. Yeah. I still wanted something a little more special because it wasn't, everybody's got Glock 19. Yeah. But not everybody has a VP9.
Correct.
Or a P30.
Correct.
Which was carried by, the P30, it was carried until recently by the Border Patrol guys.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of P30s on a secondary market now because of that. Because they got transitioned over to a special Glock developed right specifically for Homeland Security. I probably am butchering that, so in the comments, don't kill me, okay? I'm an old guy. Sometimes I get it right. Sometimes I remember it wrong. My stories are always a little better each time I tell them. So don't kill me in there. But my current carry is something that Joe Barnesfather made for me specifically.
Oh, very nice.
It was a lightweight commander, and lightweight commander in 9mm. And that is of all the inanimate objects that I am associated with, it is one of my 3rd most prized possessions.
Interesting.
My home, my motorcycle, and this 1911. And the
go.
motorcycle and the 1911 are like neck and neck, depending on the day. That anybody that saw or shot this gun knows that it is a special work of art. The guy probably has over 200 hours just in body work on the gun.
Wow.
and he does really good work. Man, does he do good work. And when he passes away, and not soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
But if he does, then there's a ton of knowledge that's going to go down the tubes with him. Yeah. But there's going to be like every gun that I have that I rely on, he's touched.
Yeah.
So and his mentorship in the firearms world has meant the world to me. Everybody needs a good mentor.
Absolutely.
Talk to me about that. We're going to go off the subject a little of suppressors.
Yeah, of course.
Tell me about mentorship and who was most important to you. You don't have to name them, unless you feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
But tell me the story.
You know, I've been very lucky to have multiple mentors in different chapters of my life.
Yep.
Right, that have helped navigate and guide me through some things. And what I would say is, I mean, one of my most prominent mentors, who's still involved with my family. I mean, we are with him weekly, and spend a lot of time with him. He spends a lot of time with my family, and that's very special, right? Who we choose to allow to be around our family means something. Mm-hmm. And he's a former police officer. He started in California, and then he ended up working the rest of his career in the state of Oregon.
Happy day.
And had a very, very interesting career.
I'll bet.
And I mean, I was joking around with him just recently because my daughter only sees like the laughing, playful side of him.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And we were having a conversation about how lucky she is, mm-hmm. because she's one of very few people that he is able to open up and mm-hmm. show her that. Yeah. After a long career in law enforcement, and we all know kind of what our law enforcement officers have to deal with these days, but after a very long career, that definitely takes a toll, and
sure.
Law enforcement officers can sometimes be very reserved, right? Mm-hmm. And not always show that part of them to people. So I feel very grateful that not only he's a very good friend of mine, he's mm-hmm. somebody I truly care a lot about, and we as a family consider him family, and
sure.
vice versa. And
man,
he's definitely been a very positive figure in my life, so I'm grateful.
Yeah, our law enforcement professionals get for the most part, they're doing their job, man. They're out there trying to keep us, I always tell people, I'm like, you need to be able to defend yourself because they're minutes away and seconds count.
Absolutely.
However, they deal with everyone's worst day every day, right?
Absolutely.
So they become, I think they get in that, they're so immersed in that if they don't have a great faith background or some kind of thing that would lift them out of that dark area, that it really grades them down. And soldiers and Marines and sailors and all the people that wear a flag on the right shoulder understand what they deal with every day, and I think that's discounted. Firefighters see tragedy every day.
Absolutely.
The people that run the ambulance see tragic things daily. Things that happen to children that should never happen to children.
Correct.
There's no. So my minor is in college was in law enforcement because I thought that that's something I might want to do when I was. Matter of fact, I flirted with it when Clinton was the president and I was mm-hmm. still in the Army. Yeah. And I was like, man, this might not last for me, right? Because he's drawing the Army down so drastically.
Yeah.
And I just got to talking to a guy that was in the Marshal Service. Yeah. And he came from a rural police department before he went into the Marshal Service. And I met him on an airplane coming back from Germany, of all places. And he's like, you thinking about being a cop? I'm like, yep, thinking about joining the Marshals. I took the test, and all I got to do is waiting on them to hire me. Yeah. He's like, let me just tell you something. Do you like being a soldier? And I said, I absolutely love it. Mm-hmm. He goes, do that forever if you can. And I said, why? He goes, because the tragedy you'll face there is limited to the amount of tragedy you face every day on the job.
Absolutely.
He goes, when you see kids harmed in the way that we've seen them, and he goes, that's the toughest thing for me to walk away from. Mm-hmm. And I got to thinking to myself, could I handle that? Could I walk into a trailer somewhere or a house somewhere where kids have been harmed and not actually put my hands on that person and hurt them? The answer is no. I know me. Yeah. At least that part of me.
There you go.
Right? Because I want to help and protect everyone that's around me. And my God, I don't know how they do it. It's amazing. I know people that know me and know my views about our law enforcement brothers and sisters, mm-hmm. Are surprised to hear what I just said. I've been a little critical. right?
Yeah.
I don't think they train enough. But I don't think they're provided money to train. I don't think they're provided money to get the equipment they need. So that's interesting that we're starting to see them buy your commodity.
Yeah.
It's a great segue into that.
Yeah.
Because hearing conservation of the police officer is very, very important.
And let's not forget about when they're reacting on a scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what officers do. They react,
Sure.
right? Mm-hmm. So, like, look at a situation that happened over in Spokane quite a few years ago.
Yep.
When they made entry and they had to do their job,
Mm-hmm.
and the next day they had lawsuits because of the hearing loss that the children and other people were exposed to.
Imagine that.
So you save their life, but then they're going to turn around and sue you. So that agency now runs full suppressed,
Yep.
right?
City
And-
lawyer got involved and says,
well,
we got to fix this.
Yeah, but that's what we're starting to see. We're starting to see agencies look at the hearing side of the house, not just for their officers, but for their communities that they're serving.
Yep.
A part that I've always been kind of questionable about in the sense of the why is officers are most likely going to be engaging with their handguns.
Sure.
So why is there not suppressors that are being developed for that side of the house in focus point?
Or suppressed handguns, integral
In
suppressed.
generally, right? And there's some options out there.
Yeah. All the trigger sign.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's about.
Well, I'm sure there's a reason, and that's just the way that goes. But like that CCX suppressor will fit into duty holsters.
No doubt about it.
It's just a matter of the why in regards to agencies choosing to go a certain direction or not. Right?
Well, you see some of these agencies making dollar decisions on people's lives,
Yeah.
right? Just with body armor. You know that from your other
Yeah.
career,
Absolutely.
You're like, wow, this is too expensive to buy these for our officers. I'm like, well, how expensive is it to replace a guy? Or
Exactly.
what do you got to pay your officer's family? What kind of insurance does it go with that? So once you start talking to them about that used to frustrate me when I was at Grey Ghost. So we had a plate, we made plates.
Correct. Yeah, I remember.
And I would go and try to sell a police department, and then somebody would tell me, well, it's too expensive. I was like, do you wear body armor?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Is it soft? Uh-huh. Okay. What's your highest threat level you face? And then we can go through that whole conversation.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, how much is your life worth? Is it worth the $600 for these plates? And then they start thinking about it. They're like, wow, okay. So maybe we don't need those extra 3 brand new squad cars. I can buy body armor for all 20 officers in my department.
And thank goodness there's been a lot of grants for body armor too, right?
That is good.
But it's one of those things that when you start looking at just that equation of not just cost, but the weight of the body armor.
Yep.
Like
The
how
stuff we
light-
wore,
Yeah.
stinking heavy, right?
Heavy, yep. So, or thick, right? Super
Yeah.
thick. Now it's super lightweight body armor that's really thin so that people can move and do their job better.
Yep. I'm waiting, and it's probably already out there. I'm waiting on actual clothing, outerwear, that's level 3 protective. I know that there's a guy out of Italy supposedly making something like that, and I met him one time at SHOT Show.
Yeah.
But he seemed like he was kind of full of it. But people bought his stuff.
Oh,
like
sure.
we were important people.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a guy that ran a giant company in up in the Northwest. It rhymes with Frapple. And that he had like a suit vest made out of that material from those guys, and it was and their protectees were like, I still got to get in front of them.
Yep.
I can't,
That's exactly
I cannot. It was pretty interesting. So we're going to segue again into something a little different. I want to talk about legislation, and let's talk about what you can always separate yourself from the company. All right, if you want to. I'll tell you what my views are. I think that we charge a $200 tax stamp for something that should be regulated like a pistol.
Yeah.
I think that Hollywood and popular culture has placed a stigma on a suppressor that it doesn't deserve. This doesn't make your pistol silent unless you're shooting a .22 out of a long-barreled gun. That makes it
nice at that point.
pretty stinking. But it still has a report, right? Yeah. And you still have a noise signature that you can pinpoint.
Yeah.
And most agencies that would deal with that have a piece of technology that helps them. So I think that if we can pull the stigma off the suppressor and give all the great effects it's going to have and take off all the negative stuff, I think we can have a deregulation of that commodity.
Yeah.
And then you guys are really going to have to buy some machines.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
So what's your view on that?
Well, I mean, I can't speak for JK
Sure.
on that position. But what I will say is we have a thing called a constitution.
Yep.
And there's a reason why we separated from the country and started new.
Yep.
And there's our founding fathers and laid down a foundation of a belief system. And I think it's really important that we never forget that.
We need to realize when we talk about our founding fathers, two things. The first thing is the rules that are set forth and the things that we follow today are based on the fact that the crap they had to deal with before, when they decided to come to a new world, right?
Right. Yes.
And the second thing is those guys had balls big as church bells, and I'm going to tell you why. They sat down there the day that they signed that Declaration of Independence and wrote their death sentence on that paper. Holy macaroni, right? I mean, that all of those guys sitting in that room that signed that stuff knew that they're done.
Yep.
If they got picked up by the authorities, going to be hanging from a noose or get shot or whatever.
Yeah.
And to me, I always remember that. I was like, those guys were, man, they were brave.
Yeah.
Because today to find someone who actually know that they could be killed is kind of hard to find.
Yeah.
People can't do that math themselves anymore.
Absolutely.
But what was more important? Our country was more important.
Absolutely.
Their way of life and the way of life of their ancestors was more important. And man, if we lose sight of that, we've lost sight of it all.
Yeah.
I still think there's guys like you. I don't know how old you are, but I think you're a little younger than me. But the guys behind this camera here, they're a few generations behind me. I just feel great about it. Before, a lot of people are like, this next generation is horrible. I'm sure my dad said that about my generation. And of course my dad's dad said that about his generation, because that was the greatest generation, right? And so now here we are, years and years ahead, with great patriots like yourselves and the other people I'm fortunate enough to be around every day. They understand the Constitution.
Yeah.
They know why it's important, and they know how fragile it could be.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is look around you. And if you've never traveled outside this United States, you owe it to yourself.
That's exactly it.
Because you get a graphic representation of what our way of life is and how great it is.
Yeah, that's true.
Whenever someone says, well, America's not that great, we just say it is. I'm like, boy, you've never been anywhere. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
We have the greatest country in the world. And it's because of great patriots that started it in 1776 all the way to the day.
Yeah.
Right? So that's I'm on my little soapbox. Right? So tell me something good. Just anything. Doesn't matter what it is. What are you most excited for?
In general, or just
in general,
our industry?
yeah.
I'm very grateful to be meeting people, because I travel a lot.
Sure.
So I'm very grateful to be meeting people along my way, and creating new friendships.
Yeah.
And I've had the fortunate to travel quite a bit this last year and create friends and people that I'm definitely going to try to keep up with. And
well, I'm hoping I can make that list.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. We'll see, right? The jury's still out. As we go down our road of life, my grandfather used to say this to me, because he knew everybody in town. He knew everybody. He was friends. He made a few people mad, but then they got over it, right? Yeah. He told me one time, he goes, no man ever went to his deathbed and said, right before the lights went out, I have too many friends. No one's ever said that.
Yeah.
Right? So the fact that you collect them along the way says a lot about you. I like that.
Yeah.
So, parting thoughts. What parting thought do you have? Tell me what you're most excited about in your industry.
I love all the new growth, in the sense of all the new firearms owners and the brand new suppressor owners.
Yep.
I mean, it goes back to that education component.
Right.
Right? I mean, just look at the new firearms owner numbers alone, and then that is going to ripple effect into suppressor ownership.
Sure.
Going back to what we spoke about earlier in regards to having a better understanding of what these items are and what they're capable of doing, and taking the mask off, and it's not a boogeyman, right? It's
Totally.
This is here to help us. People have different positions, but I believe that these are safety devices, and I truly believe that this is only going to help aid in the safety of people that are using them, and it's only going to help people get into this sport even more. So that is something that I've been very happy about, and meeting people at shows that are coming up to me and saying that they never thought that they would ever want to own a suppressor, but then they started to realize how that helps them and their families, and it gets them excited again, right? And so I would say that's something that I've been impressed with.
Man, for my own personal journey where that's concerned, I always thought there was a certain chicks dig it factor for that, right? I mean, you put a suppressor on a gun, and you're like, it's like flexing, right? You're flexing your stuff. Not anymore. I mean, because now it's a very accepted commodity, and it's attainable, and it comes to, and you're able to get it out of what we call suppressor jail pretty quick, right? So, man, what a fantastic time to be, one, in the suppressor world, and two, to be providing a needed commodity for protection and for recreation for people.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. Well, I got to thank you for coming out here to us. You're coming all the way from Idaho to come out here and hang out with us. Leave your llamas back there, not your llamas, but your neighbor's llamas, or whoever you're back to get ready for your camping trip.
That's it.
You leave your family. I was a road warrior for a while. That's always thankless. But they always love to see you come back in the door, right?
That's it.
For the most part.
Yep.
Yeah. Sometimes it's been a tough week and Mama's not happy, but for the most part, you come walking in the door and you're brand new at that point. So once again, I have to thank you for being with us. Yeah. I think that the JK Armament folks are class act. Everyone I've met has been fantastic. I think the commodity's good. Our relationship together through Rainier Arms is going to be strong from now on.
Absolutely.
The last thing I want to thank you for is thank you. I don't know you specifically, but I'll thank the company and you, is that you provided a suppressor that we were able to generate some funds off of to help our wounded, or not our wounded, but our homeless veterans in the local area stay in housing. So thank you guys for that. You guys really helped Resilient Warrior with that. And I'm hoping I can hump your leg and get some more out of you in the future. Because I think what we need to do is we need to continue to provide them a place where they can launch.
Absolutely.
So thank you guys so much for that. It says a lot about you and your company that you're willing to basically cost yourself some money to help some veterans that you don't have any idea who they are. You have no idea who they are.
Yeah.
But they wrote a check to our country for their lives.
Absolutely.
So we owe it to them to take care of them now.
Yes.
So thanks again.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Come back anytime.
Thank you.
So that's it tonight. I mean, that's it. We're going to talk a little bit about what bourbon we're going to drink later. Just kidding. Well, a little bit. But I think that the first, I don't know when this is going to, we're trying to do these on First Fridays and launch them on First Fridays, so you'll have a velocity and you'll have some expectation on when to find these things. And share them with your buddies, right? Even if you want to laugh at me, that's fine. But share them around so we can get this information out, and these great companies they'll become more notable. So thanks again. GW out.